Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Will the government tell New Zealanders before the election which assets, if any, they will sell if they are re-elected?
The Honourable Billing.
Mr Speaker, the government has made a firm commitment to New Zealanders that there will be no asset sales in this term of office, and that if the policy changes, we will say so and campaign on the issue in the 2011 election.
The Honourable Annette.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. In light of that answer, has the policy changed since yesterday when the Prime Minister said a decision as to whether to sell Kiwibank would be made in the second term if re-elected, rather than telling New Zealanders before they go to the polls what assets are on the block?
The Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker, the policy has not changed. We made a firm commitment that if there are any policy changes, we will say so before the election and put it to the election in 2011.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Is government policy regarding the sale of Kiwibank that it will not be sold, there is no rational reason for selling, and there aren't any circumstances under which it will be sold, as stated by John Key, and does that represent a change of policy?
The Honourable Bill English.
No, Mr Speaker, it does not.
Chris Tremaine.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, what is the government's priority for managing the $220 billion of assets it holds on behalf of taxpayers?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, our priority is to fix the damage done by the last government in its very poor management of $200 billion worth of assets. The taxpayer owns $59 billion of financial assets, $52 billion of companies, and $109 billion of housing, schools, hospitals, prisons and roads. It is a top priority for this government to manage that $200 billion of assets better, and I have to say we've been able to make a lot of progress because it was such a poor job done by the last government.
The Honourable Annette King.
Question, Mr Speaker. Is it government's policy to sell Kiwibank eventually, as he said on the 1st of August 2008 before the election, or is the policy not to sell Kiwibank, never to sell Kiwibank ever, as stated by John Key on at least 9 occasions, including May 2007, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th of August 2008, the 21st and 22nd of October 2008, and the 4th and 5th of November 2008?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister has strong views on these things, and I tend to agree with them.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question. Did he agree with John Key? Did he agree with John Key when he refused to sign a pledge not to sell Kiwibank? And then did he agree with John Key when he changed his mind and promised never ever to sell Kiwibank? And is he aware that while John Key was sending mixed messages, ministers like Nathan Guy were busy signing the pledge on behalf of his party?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, as I outlined in answer to an earlier question, the government has made a commitment to New Zealand that there are no asset sales in this term of office, and if the policy changes, we will say so. And as I pointed out to the member, we have spent our time on a much more important task, which is fixing, well, I think it demonstrates the point that the last government did nothing to manage $200 billion of assets properly in the interests of the taxpayer, and that is what we are doing with considerable success.
The Honourable Annette King.
Was his decision to raise the sale of Kiwibank a day after his budget an attempt to foster debate about asset sale or an attempt to foment trouble with his leader?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, in the context of a budget that has gone down pretty well, because it's good for the economy, and good for families, I was answering a question asked by the audience.
Point of order, the Honourable Annette
Mr
King.
Speaker, I seek leave to table a pledge signed by Nathan Guy pledging his party support that they will not initiate or support the sale of Kiwi Bank.
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. The Honourable Annette King.
Seek leave to table a copy of a pledge signed by all party leaders except John Key, who has now said he'd never ever sell it anyway.
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Question number 2.